The industrialization of the intellectual process. This is an underlying threat. Here, this is another industrial transformation. I won't speak in a cheap European accent like a supervillain, standing under a big blue backdrop with a ring of white stars, talking about transforming the world. Still, this is another stage in industrial transformation. Whereas the previous industrial transformations happened, first, the concept of industrialization itself, where sweatshops were formed and the underlying concept of organized employed labor was put forth. Second, the systematizing of the ideas into a more streamlined way, refined by the improvements in technology, the creation of vast factories and assembly lines of machines rather than the previous method of assembly lines of people working by hand. Now they stood there and pushed a button or forced a lever. This next level is the industrialization of the thinking process. Computers have streamlined things to such a degree that there is little else but to endlessly refine what is already made. The SR-70 Blackbird spy plane was designed by pencil. Now everyone is using computer-assisted drafting. Purchase a CAD license, get a cheap laptop, and you're in business. What took a whole office building floor of designers and researchers and draftsmen, you now have in your hands, with 3D printing and companies that take online orders for whatever you want to build if you can't build it for yourself. This is all current day. This new industrial development we are looking at is the next step. That creative person with the laptop and the CAD app, with a hope and dream, that is being industrialized. The whole concept of creative planning and developing and designing is being industrialized. You won't have to do it. From the intellectual process down to the physical process of casting and machining the part, this is being industrialized as a whole. The creative aspect doesn't even need to be in physical form because of the prevalence of online content. The issue is, if everything is industrialized, what is there for the human being to do? If the factory jobs are taken by the machine, and the service jobs are taken by the machine, it is implied that this freedom a person has allows them the time towards creative endeavors and intellectual pursuits. The utopian ideal found in industrialization. But if the intellectual process itself is industrialized through the use of algorithms and artificial intelligence, what else is there for the human being to do? A human being lives in the real world, a physical world where there are physical things that need to be done. There are physical processes and events that take place. Human beings exist in of themselves, but also as participants in their environment, and much of what they do is an interaction with that environment, what they build and what they create and what they consume, always towards some end goal which becomes a stepping stone for the next effort towards a goal, and on and on. If every physical necessity and intellectual process is then industrialized, what is there for the human being to do but to service the machine in that industrial process? And for what end? Why do we build? For our end use. Why do we create? For our end use. If everything that we have created and built creates the only end use for us, that is, to service the machines that do all the thinking and creating for us, then we have essentially switched places with the assembly line. We will become the assembly line, and the machines will be the things that live on Earth. To be sure, I consider much of the outrage against artificial intelligence to be pointless shaking one's fist in the air. It does pose a clear and present threat, if the initial threat isn't taken seriously.